Outmatched and outnumbered, the Vraxian warships descended from the clouds like metallic predators, their hulls gleaming with an unnatural blue sheen under Earth's sun. They had appeared with no warning 3 months ago, positioning themselves over every major city on the planet within hours. Humanity's military response had been swift but futile. Fighter jets disintegrated mid-air, their missiles dissolving into harmless particles before impact. Ground-based weapons fared no better. The Vraxians' energy shields simply absorbed everything humanity threw at them. Commander Elena Reyes stood at the edge of what remained of Chicago, watching black smoke billow from the downtown ruins. At 39, she had spent 2 decades in special operations, but nothing in her career had prepared her for this. Her combat fatigues were stained with dried blood, some hers, most belonging to others who hadn't survived the last engagement. The scar running down her left cheek, a souvenir from Afghanistan, seemed trivial compared to the fresh wounds Earth had sustained. "Commander, the Council is waiting," said Lieutenant Marcus Chen, interrupting her thoughts. His once pristine uniform now hung loosely on his frame after weeks of minimal rations. Elena nodded and followed him into what was left of the underground command center. The room was dimly lit to conserve power, screens flickering with data streams from the few satellites still operational. Around a battle-scarred table sat what remained of Earth's Unified Defense Council, military leaders and scientists from nations that had set aside generations of differences to face extinction together. General Williams, once the commander of NATO forces, stood as Elena entered. "Commander Rice, your report." Elena activated the holographic display in the center of the table. "The Vraxians have established processing centers in 43 major cities. Our intelligence suggests they're stripping Earth of rare metals and minerals, particularly thorium and neodymium. They're also," she paused, "harvesting biological samples from human subjects. The fate of these subjects remains unknown." The room fell silent, the weight of her words settling on already burdened shoulders. "And the resistance operations?" asked a Chinese general whose name Elena couldn't remember. "Increasingly ineffective, sir. Conventional weapons barely scratch their armor. Our best success came from a tactical EMP strike in London, which temporarily disabled a smaller vessel. However, they've since adapted." Dr. Abigail Foster, the chief scientist of Project Lazarus, cleared her throat. Even in the dim light, Elena could see the dark circles under her eyes. "That's where our latest findings become relevant. The EMP success wasn't a fluke. We've analyzed tissue samples from a fallen Vraxian warrior. Their neural systems are heavily integrated with synthetic components. Essentially, they're partial cyborgs." She tapped her tablet, and a hologram shifted to display the alien anatomy. "Their technological advantage is also their weakness. Their nervous systems are particularly vulnerable to specific electromagnetic frequencies. More importantly, we've discovered that human soldiers can be modified to exploit this vulnerability." General Williams leaned forward. "Modified how?" Dr. Foster exchanged glances with Elena before continuing. "Project Lazarus involves neurological enhancements and specialized implants that allow soldiers to generate localized electromagnetic fields. These modifications would make them essentially invisible to Vraxian detection systems and give them the capability to disrupt Vraxian neural networks on contact." "You're talking about turning our people into weapons," said the representative from India, her voice sharp with disapproval. "With all due respect," Elena interjected, "we're already weapons. The difference is that now we might actually be effective ones." Dr. Foster nodded. Commander Rice volunteered her Special Operations Unit as the first candidates. "The modifications have been tested and are ready for deployment." "The side effects?" General Williams asked. Dr. Foster's hesitation was brief but noticeable. "Significant. The human nervous system isn't designed to generate electromagnetic pulses. Even with the implants, the strain is considerable. We estimate maximum field operation time of 72 hours before irreversible neural damage occurs." Elena watched the council members exchange troubled glances, They were weighing lives against extinction, a calculation no one wanted to make. There's more, Dr. Foster continued. The modifications require a genetic predisposition found in approximately 15% of humans. Commander Reyes and 9 members of her unit possess this marker. So we're talking about a suicide mission for 10 soldiers. The French general's voice was heavy with skepticism. We're talking about the first effective strike against an enemy that has slaughtered millions, Elena countered. If we can disable their flagship and access their communication array, we might be able to broadcast a signal that disrupts their neural networks planet-wide. General Williams studied the battle maps projected above the table. The Vraxian flagship hovers over what's left of Beijing. Getting your team there undetected would be nearly impossible. Not entirely, said Lieutenant Chen, stepping forward. We've modified a stealth transport with the same technology being used in Project Lazarus. It won't register on their sensors. Elena pointed to a location on the map. We'll approach from the sea, through the Yellow Sea corridor. Their presence is lighter there since they've already stripped the area of resources. The room fell silent again as the council considered the proposal. Finally, General Williams spoke. Even if this works, even if you manage to disable their flagship, what's to stop them from simply destroying Earth from orbit in retaliation? Dr. Foster answered. Our analysis of their behavior suggests they value Earth's resources too highly for orbital bombardment. They want what we have, not to destroy it. Elena met the general's gaze. This may be the only advantage we'll ever have. Every day we wait, they entrench deeper. They learn more about us while we understand little about them. This asymmetry won't improve with time. General Williams held her gaze for a long moment, then looked around the table. All in favor of authorizing Project Lazarus. One by one, hands raised. The vote was unanimous. Commander Reyes, the general said, you have 48 hours to prepare your team. After that, you deploy. Elena nodded, feeling the weight of Earth's desperate hope settle on her shoulders. The preparation chamber beneath the ruins of Northwestern Memorial Hospital had once been a state-of-the-art operating theater. Now it served as the final stage of Project Lazarus. Elena lay on a cold metal table, watching as technicians prepared the neural interface that would be surgically attached to her brainstem. Dr. Foster leaned over her. The procedure will take approximately 4 hours. When you wake up, you'll feel different. Different how? Elena asked. Your sensory perception will be enhanced. You'll be able to detect electronic fields, see wavelengths beyond normal human vision, and you'll be able to generate electromagnetic pulses through targeted neural activity. Elena nodded. And the 72-hour window. Dr. Foster's professional demeanor slipped momentarily, revealing concern. That's a conservative estimate. Push beyond that, and the damage becomes catastrophic. Your neural pathways will begin to degrade. First motor functions, then cognitive abilities. And then total neural collapse. There's no coming back from that. Elena closed her eyes briefly. My team. All in similar procedures across the facility. Lieutenant Chen is already in recovery. His compatibility markers were exceptionally high. Good. He's the best of us. Elena took a deep breath. Let's get this done. As the anesthesia mask descended over her face, Elena's thoughts turned to her brother and niece in Colorado. She wondered if they were still alive, if the Vraxians had reached the mountain communities yet. The possibility that they might survive because of what she was about to do gave her a strange sense of peace as consciousness slipped away. When Elena awoke, the world had changed. She could see the electrical current flowing through the lights above her. She could feel the electromagnetic fields generated by the equipment surrounding her bed. Her mind processed multiple sensory inputs simultaneously without effort. Commander, Dr. Foster's voice seemed to come from everywhere at once, each syllable distinct and layered with information Elena had never perceived before. I'm here, Elena replied, surprised by how ordinary her voice sounded in contrast to her transformed perception. How do you feel? Elena sat up slowly. Like I've been blind my entire life until now. Dr. Foster nodded. That's the enhanced neural processing. Your brain is now interpreting electromagnetic data as sensory input. Can you stand? Elena swung her legs over the edge of the bed. Her movements felt precise, calculated. She stood, testing her balance. Try activating a pulse, Dr. Foster suggested, stepping back. Focus on your right hand. Imagine energy gathering there. Elena concentrated, visualizing electricity flowing down her arm. A blue glow emanated from her palm, crackling with energy. The nearby monitoring equipment flickered. Remarkable, Dr. Foster whispered. Your control is already better than we anticipated. The door to the recovery room slid open, and Lieutenant Chen entered. Like Elena, he seemed transformed, more focused, his movements fluid and deliberate. The others are ready, Commander, he said. Final briefing in 10 minutes. Elena nodded and turned to Dr. Foster. Time to see if your science can save the world. In the briefing room, Elena faced her 9 modified soldiers. They had all been chosen for their exceptional combat records and their genetic compatibility with the Lazarus enhancements. Looking at them now, she could see the subtle changes, the heightened awareness in their eyes, the controlled precision of their movements. Our mission is straightforward, Elena began, activating the holographic display of the Vraxian flagship. We infiltrate the vessel, fight our way to the communication array, and broadcast the disruptive frequency Dr. Foster has developed. If successful, it should temporarily disable every Vraxian within range of their own communication network. And if unsuccessful? Asked Sergeant Rivera, the team's demolitions expert. Then we use these. Elena held up what looked like a standard detonator. The neurological enhancements in our bodies can be overloaded to create an electromagnetic pulse powerful enough to disable the flagship's core systems. At the cost of our lives, Lieutenant Chen added quietly. Yes, Elena confirmed. That's the backup plan. But let's focus on Plan A. She displayed the infiltration route, the estimated patrol patterns of Vraxian guards, and the location of the communication array. We deploy at 400 hours. The transport will drop us 5 kilometers from the target. From there, we move on foot to avoid detection. Elena looked at each team member in turn. You all volunteered knowing this might be one way. Whatever happens tomorrow, you've already proven yourselves the finest soldiers I've ever served with. For Earth, Lieutenant Chen said, raising his fist. For Earth, the team echoed. As the briefing concluded, Elena found herself alone with her thoughts. In less than 8 hours, they would deploy on humanity's most desperate gambit. The enhanced senses that came with Project Lazarus allowed her to perceive the electrical impulses of her own heart, steady, determined. Whatever happened, she was ready. The unstoppable force. The modified stealth transport skimmed just above the waves of the Yellow Sea, its hull vibrating as it pushed against its speed limitations. Inside, Elena and her team performed final equipment checks. Their specialized combat suits were designed to amplify their electromagnetic abilities while providing basic protection. Unlike bulky traditional body armor, these form-fitting suits enhanced mobility and stealth capabilities. 2 minutes to drop zone. The pilot's voice announced over the intercom. Elena looked at her team. 10 soldiers carrying humanity's desperate hope. Remember your training. Our enhanced senses are an advantage, but they can also overwhelm. Stay focused. Stay together. The transport slowed and descended until it hovered just above the water surface. The rear hatch opened, revealing the pre-dawn darkness. The coastline of what had once been Chinese territory loomed ahead, and above it, the massive silhouette of the Vraxian flagship, a dark wound against the fading stars. Move out, Elena ordered. One by one, they slipped into the shallow water and waded toward shore. Elena could sense the electromagnetic fields generated by Vraxian technology, a pervasive hum that her enhanced mind translated into visual patterns of blue-green light. She could see patrol vessels kilometers away, distinguish between different types of Vraxian technology based on their energy signatures. They reached the shore and took cover among the ruins of a coastal village. Elena signaled for them to activate their personal stealth fields, another benefit of their Lazarus enhancements. The electromagnetic manipulation allowed them to effectively bend light around their bodies, rendering them nearly invisible to both standard vision and Vraxian sensors. 6 patrol units approaching from the north. Lieutenant Chen whispered, his enhanced senses having detected the threat before any traditional equipment could have. Hold position, Elena commanded. The Vraxian patrol moved through the village ruins. 2-meter-tall humanoids with silvery exoskeletons covering portions of their pale bodies. Their elongated heads housed large compound eyes that glowed faintly in the pre-dawn light. They carried weapons that seemed fused to their arms, an extension of their cyborg physiology. Elena could see the electric impulses flowing through their neural systems, complex patterns of energy that betrayed their alien thought processes. One Vraxian stopped mere meters from their position, its head turning slowly as if sensing something amiss. Elena measured her breathing, focusing on maintaining her stealth field. The Vraxian's compound eyes swept over their hiding place, paused momentarily, then moved on. The patrol continued through the village and disappeared into the distance. Clear, Elena whispered. Move toward the extraction point. They proceeded through the ruined landscape, avoiding 3 more patrols before reaching their destination. A massive anti-gravity lift that carried resources from the surface to the flagship hovering 2 kilometers above. Hidden among containers of harvested materials, they ascended toward the belly of the alien vessel. As they approached the ship, Elena felt the density of electromagnetic fields intensify. The Vraxian technology hummed with energy that her enhanced senses translated into an almost beautiful symphony of light and sensation. Prepare for entry, she commanded as they neared the docking bay. Weapons hot, stealth fields at maximum. The lift slowed as it entered the massive docking bay. Containers were automatically moved by robotic systems to various processing stations. Elena signaled, and her team slipped from their hiding places, moving silently between shadows and blind spots in the Vraxian surveillance system. Chen, Rivera, secure the exit route, Elena ordered. The rest of you with me. We need to find access to the central communication node. They moved deeper into the ship, Elena leading them through corridors based on the architectural analysis their intelligence had pieced together from damaged Vraxian vessels. Twice they encountered patrols, but their enhanced abilities allowed them to sense the Vraxians before being detected themselves. The first real test came at a security checkpoint. 4 Vraxian guards stood before a massive doorway that, according to their intelligence, led to the central command section of the ship. We can't avoid this confrontation, Elena whispered. Prepare to engage. Remember, direct contact with your electromagnetic pulse will temporarily disable their neural systems. Elena signaled a 3-pronged approach. Sergeant Jackson and Corporal Diaz would flank from the left, Lieutenant Chen and Private Kessler from the right. Elena and Sergeant Rivera would create a distraction from the center. Execute, Elena commanded. Their stealth fields dropped as they unleashed their first offensive electromagnetic pulses. The effect was immediate and devastating. The closest Vraxian guard convulsed as Elena's pulse disrupted its neural network, its weapon discharging harmlessly into the wall as it collapsed. The other guards barely had time to register the attack before Elena's team closed the distance. Elena drove her fist into a Vraxian's chest, channeling a concentrated electromagnetic burst directly into its core systems. The alien's compound eyes flared bright blue, then dimmed as it fell to the ground, its neural network overloaded. Within seconds, all 4 guards were neutralized. But the brief firefight had consequences. Alarms blared throughout the section, and Elena could sense a surge of activity in the electromagnetic field surrounding them. Move. We've lost the element of surprise, she ordered. They charged through the doorway and into the central command section. Here, they encountered heavier resistance. Vraxian warriors poured into the corridors, their weapons firing bursts of concentrated plasma. Private Kessler fell first, a plasma burst catching him in the chest, despite his enhanced reflexes. Corporal Diaz was next, overwhelmed by 3 Vraxians at once. Even with their Lazarus enhancements, the sheer number of enemies was overwhelming. "We need to reach the communication array," Elena shouted over the chaos. She could feel the strain on her enhanced systems, the constant generation of electromagnetic pulses taxing her modified nervous system. According to Dr. Foster's warnings, they had less than 40 hours before neural degradation began. Lieutenant Chen blasted a path forward, his electromagnetic pulses growing stronger as he pushed his enhancements to their limits. "This way, Commander." They fought their way through the Vraxian defenders, their enhanced abilities giving them an edge in close combat. When they finally reached the central communication chamber, only Elena, Chen, Rivera, and Jackson remained from the original team. The chamber was a massive spherical room, dominated by a glowing crystalline structure at its center, the Vraxian communication array. Attending to it were not warriors but technicians, their bodies more extensively modified with cybernetic components than the soldiers they had encountered. "Rivera, secure the entrance," Elena ordered. "Chen, Jackson, with me." As they approached the array, a new figure emerged from behind the crystal structure, taller than the others, its exoskeleton more elaborate, adorned with what appeared to be ceremonial markings. Its compound eyes fixed on Elena with unmistakable intelligence. "You have fought well to reach this place, human," it spoke, its voice a discordant mix of organic and synthetic sounds that Elena's enhanced hearing processed with disturbing clarity. "But your resistance is futile. We have conquered civilizations far more advanced than yours. Then why take our resources instead of trading for them?" Elena demanded, buying time as Chen circulated around the room toward the array controls. "Why harvest our people?" The Vraxian commander's head tilted slightly. "Your species possesses something unique, a neural plasticity we have not encountered before. Your brains adapt, evolve, create in ways ours cannot. This is why you were able to develop these crude enhancements so quickly." It gestured toward Elena with what might have been admiration. "Your biological material is valuable to our evolution. We're not resources to be harvested," Elena growled, channeling energy into her hands. The blue glow intensified. "All lesser species are resources," the commander replied simply. "This is the natural order." Elena lunged forward, unleashing an electromagnetic pulse directly at the commander. To her shock, the alien countered with its own electromagnetic field, neutralizing her attack. "Did you think you were the first to discover this technology?" it asked. "We have been manipulating electromagnetic fields for millennia." From the corner of her eye, Elena saw Chen reach the array controls. He nodded slightly. He was ready to upload Dr. Foster's disruptive frequency. "You may be more advanced," Elena acknowledged, circling to keep the commander's attention on her. "But there's one thing you miscalculated." "And what is that, human?" "We're really good at learning from our enemies." Elena unleashed another pulse, this time directed not at the commander but at the crystal array itself. The structure resonated, vibrating at a frequency that made the Vraxian commander recoil. "Now, Chen," Elena shouted. Lieutenant Chen slammed his hand onto the control interface, channeling his electromagnetic abilities directly into the Vraxian system. Dr. Foster's disruptive frequency uploaded into the array, amplified by the crystalline structure. The effect was immediate. Every Vraxian in the chamber collapsed, their neural networks overwhelmed by the signal. The commander struggled to remain standing, its systems more resilient than those of its subordinates. "What have you done?" "We've turned your greatest strength into your weakness," Elena explained, approaching the fallen commander. "Your neural networks, your shared consciousness, they're all connected through this array. And now they're all receiving a signal their systems can't process." The commander's compound eyes flickered as its systems fought against the disruption. "This, temporary, are ship's orbital positions. By the time your systems reset, humanity will be ready, Elena said. This is just the beginning. As she spoke, Elena could feel the strain on her own neural enhancements intensifying. The continuous use of her abilities was accelerating the degradation process. Her vision blurred momentarily, the first sign of the coming neural collapse Dr. Foster had warned about. "Commander, we need to move," Chen urged, his voice strained. "The frequency is broadcasting shipwide and to all Vraxian vessels in Earth orbit, but it won't last forever." Elena nodded. "Jackson, what's our extraction route?" Sergeant Jackson, who had been monitoring the ship's systems through his enhanced senses, shook his head. "The Vraxians have locked down all docking bays. They're disabled but not unconscious. They've managed to secure the ship against escape." "Then we finish this," Elena decided. She turned to her remaining team members. "You know what that means." Chen nodded grimly. "Overload our enhancements. Create an EMP powerful enough to permanently disable the flagship." "But Commander," Rivera protested, "that would mean—" "We knew this might be a one-way mission." Elena cut him off. "What matters is that we've given Earth a fighting chance. The disruptive signal has temporarily disabled their fleet. Earth's remaining forces will have a window to strike back." She could see in their eyes that they understood the necessity of the sacrifice. They had come too far to retreat now. "It's been an honor serving with you all," Elena said softly. They gathered around the communication array, forming a circle. Each placed a hand on the crystalline structure. "On my mark," Elena commanded. "Channel everything you have into the array. The feedback loop should create an electromagnetic pulse powerful enough to permanently fry their systems." Elena looked at each of her soldiers one last time. Chen's steady determination, Rivera's quiet resolve, Jackson's nervous bravery. They had become more than human through Project Lazarus, and now they would use that transformation to save humanity. "For Earth," Elena said. "For Earth," they echoed. Now, they channeled their electromagnetic abilities into the crystal, pushing their enhancements beyond safe limits. Elena felt her neural pathways burning with energy, pain cascading through her consciousness. The crystal structure glowed brighter, resonating at an increasing frequency as it absorbed their combined power. In her final moments of consciousness, as her enhanced vision began to fade, Elena saw the Vraxian commander watching her with what seemed like respect. Then the world exploded in brilliant white light as their sacrificial electromagnetic pulse erupted outward from the array. Across Earth, humans watched in awe as the Vraxian flagship erupted with blue-white energy. The massive vessel shuddered in the sky above Beijing, its systems catastrophically failing. Rather than exploding, it simply went dark, dead in the sky, before slowly beginning its descent toward the ground below. More remarkably, every Vraxian ship in orbit simultaneously lost power. The invasion force that had seemed invincible mere hours before now drifted helplessly in space or fell from the sky. In underground command centers around the world, military leaders watched in disbelief as Vraxian ground forces collapsed, their neural networks disrupted by the pulse that had spread through their entire communication system. General Williams stood in the Chicago command center, watching the satellite feeds with tears in his eyes. "They did it," he whispered. "Commander Reyes and her team actually did it." Dr. Foster nodded silently beside him, her face a complex mixture of triumph and grief. She knew better than anyone the sacrifice Elena's team had made, the certain neural collapse they had embraced to create an electromagnetic pulse of that magnitude. "Launch the counteroffensive," General Williams ordered. "All remaining forces, move in while they're vulnerable. This is humanity's chance." As Earth's military forces mobilized against the disabled Vraxian invaders, Dr. Foster slipped away from the command center. In her private lab, she activated a secure terminal and entered a series of commands. On the screen appeared a message she had prepared weeks ago, hoping she would never need to send it. "Project Lazar US Phase 2 Authorization. Approved." She hesitated only a moment before pressing the confirmation key. Somewhere beneath the ruins of what had once been Stanford University, Cryogenic chambers began the revival process on 20 more genetically compatible soldiers, the next wave of Project Lazarus. The battle for Earth wasn't over. But thanks to Commander Elinga Reyes and her team, humanity now had something it had lost in those first terrible days of the invasion: hope.